Hey guys, quick question. How long do you think you'd last without refrigeration, food safety regulations, or the basic human right to refuse a meal that's actively crawling with insects? A day? Maybe two if you're really committed to the experience. Try waking up as a pharaoh in ancient Egypt. You'll be lucky to make it through your morning meal without contracting something that sounds like a rejected Harry Potter spell and kills you with the efficiency of a modern pharmaceutical commercial. Tonight, we're not talking about golden masks, mysterious pyramids, and Cleopatra with suspiciously perfect eyeliner. We're talking about what actually went into the God King's mouth. The delicacies that made ruling the ancient world less about power and more about surviving your own dinner table. So before you unwrap that perfectly preserved sandwich from your temperature-controlled refrigerator, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Especially if you're eating something right now that didn't require 3 different people to taste test for poison. I respect your faith in modern food safety. Now dim the lights. Maybe grab some crackers and water because you're going to need them after this journey. Something bland and safe, unlike anything we're about to discuss. Because we're about to go back to a time where every meal was a gamble, every bite was a potential death sentence, and being the most powerful person in the known world meant you got first dibs on all the questionable delicacies. Let's get into it. You wake up in your bedchamber in the royal palace at Memphis. The year is 1527 BCE. Thutmose I sits on the throne of the 2 lands. You are him. Congratulations. You rule an empire that stretches from Nubia to the Euphrates. You command armies. You build monuments. You are considered a living god. You are also about to eat breakfast. The morning sun streams through narrow windows carved into limestone walls 3 feet thick. Your bed is not the golden masterpiece you've seen in movies. It's a wooden frame strung with leather strips. Your pillow is a curved headrest made of wood and ivory. Your neck feels like someone spent the night practicing their wrestling moves on it. A servant approaches. He's been awake since before dawn, preparing your morning meal. He kneels. He does not make eye contact. Good thing, because what he's about to offer you would make a medieval peasant question their life choices. Your breakfast arrives on a low table made of ebony and gold. The presentation is immaculate. The food itself is an adventure in biological warfare. The centerpiece is fresh bread. Sounds normal. It isn't. This bread is made from emmer wheat, ground by hand on stone querns. The grinding process incorporates small particles of stone into the flour. Every bite contains enough grit to file your teeth down to nubs. Egyptian mummies show severe dental wear by age 30. Now you know why. But wait, there's more. The bread also contains weevils, not accidentally, intentionally. Protein, they tell you. The gods appreciate efficiency. You appreciate not starving, so you eat your beetle bread and try not to think about the little legs getting stuck between your teeth. Next to the bread sits a bowl of tiger nut sweets. Tiger nuts aren't nuts. They're small tubers that taste like dirt with aspirations. They've been ground into a paste, mixed with honey, and formed into small cakes. The honey is raw, unfiltered, and contains pieces of beeswax, bee legs, and the occasional whole bee. The Egyptians consider this a delicacy. You consider it evidence that power doesn't equal wisdom. Your drink selection includes beer and wine. The beer is thick, chunky, and tastes like liquid bread left in the sun too long, which is essentially what it is. Egyptian beer is made by partially baking bread, then letting it ferment in water. The result is a nutritious, alcoholic porridge that contains more calories than flavor. You drink it through a reed straw to filter out the larger chunks. This doesn't work as well as you'd hope. The wine is worse. Egyptian wine is made from grapes grown in the Nile Delta, where the soil is fertilized with human waste, and the water supply comes directly from a river that doubles as the national bathroom. The fermentation process happens in large clay jars sealed with mud. The mud contains bacteria. The bacteria love wine almost as much as they love making you violently ill. You sip your wine. It tastes like vinegar mixed with regret. You wonder if being a god is worth this. Then you remember that everyone else eats worse things, and you feel slightly better about your divine status. The servant brings your main course. Fish, fresh from the Nile. This is where people bathe, wash clothes, dispose of waste, and occasionally dump bodies when the embalmers get backlogged. This fish has lived its entire life swimming through what amounts to ancient Egypt's largest open sewer. The fish is served whole, head and all. Its eyes are cloudy, its scales are intact. Its belly contains whatever it ate last, which could be anything from river weeds to decomposing organic matter you don't want to identify. The Egyptians don't gut their fish before cooking. They believe the whole animal should be consumed to honor its sacrifice to the gods. You honor the sacrifice. You try not to think about what you're honoring. The fish is accompanied by lotus root. Lotus root grows in still water. Still, water in ancient Egypt is a breeding ground for parasites, bacteria, and diseases that won't be properly understood for another 3,000 years. The root is boiled, but boiling doesn't kill everything. Some things are surprisingly resilient. Your royal physician stands nearby watching you eat. He carries a bag of herbal remedies, most of which are useless, several of which are toxic, and one or two of which might actually help if you're incredibly lucky. His primary job is not preventing illness. It's treating the inevitable consequences of your lifestyle. He nods approvingly as you consume your meal. The fish will provide protein. The lotus root will provide vitamins. The parasites will provide character-building experiences and potentially chronic digestive issues for the rest of your reign. After breakfast, you attend to royal duties. You hold court. You review building projects. You receive reports from governors. You try to ignore the growing discomfort in your stomach. The morning meal is beginning its journey through your digestive system, bringing friends it picked up along the way. Lunch arrives at midday. The timing is precise. The food is elaborate. The nutritional value is questionable. Today's lunch features roast duck. The duck lived on a royal farm where it ate grain, insects, and whatever else ducks find appetizing. Egyptian ducks are not picky eaters. Neither are the parasites that live inside them. The roasting process kills some of the harmful organisms. Not all of them. Ancient Egyptian cooking methods are more art than science, and the art in question is abstract expressionism. The duck is stuffed with a mixture of bread, onions, and garlic. The bread contains the usual stone particles and protein-rich weevils. The onions are strong enough to make your eyes water from across the room. The garlic is even stronger. Together, they create a flavor profile that could wake the dead, which is convenient, because that's roughly how you feel after eating it. Side dishes include lettuce and cucumbers. The lettuce grows in gardens irrigated with Nile water, the same water that serves multiple purposes for multiple species. The cucumbers are better, but not by much. They're grown in the same soil, watered with the same multi-purpose river water, and harvested by workers whose understanding of hygiene is limited to not handling food with visibly dirty hands. Your wine today is from the royal vineyard. This means it's slightly better quality than yesterday's wine, which isn't saying much. It's still made from grapes, grown in questionable soil, fermented in bacteria-friendly conditions, and stored in containers that were cleaned with sand and river water. The taste is complex, layered, and primarily unpleasant. But you're the Pharaoh. You don't complain about your food. Complaining would suggest that the gods have provided inadequately for their earthly representative. The gods do not appreciate criticism. Neither do your subjects, who would be thrilled to eat your leftovers. You finish lunch and continue with royal duties. You inspect the progress on your tomb. You review plans for a new temple. You meet with military commanders. You try to focus on matters of state while your body processes a meal that would challenge a modern emergency room. The afternoon brings diplomatic visitors from Mesopotamia. They bring gifts, including exotic foods from their homeland. You're expected to sample these offerings as a sign of respect and friendship. The offerings include fermented mare's milk, dried fish from the Persian Gulf, and something that might be cheese, but could also be fermented clay. The mare's milk tastes like horse sweat mixed with yogurt. The dried fish tastes like salt mixed with regret. The cheese-like substance tastes like nothing you've ever experienced and hope to never experience again. You smile, nod, and compliment your guests on their generosity. Diplomacy requires sacrifices. Today, your digestive system makes that sacrifice. Evening arrives. So does dinner. The most elaborate meal of the day. The most dangerous meal of the day. The meal that separates pharaohs from ordinary mortals, mostly by killing pharaohs more creatively. Tonight's menu features roast goose, beef, and gazelle. The goose lived a pampered life on the royal estate before meeting its end in the royal kitchen. The beef comes from cattle that grazed in fields fertilized with human waste and irrigated with river water that doubles as a transportation route for both boats and bacteria. The gazelle was hunted in the desert, field-dressed by men whose concept of food safety involved wiping blood off their hands with sand. Each meat is prepared differently. The goose is roasted over an open fire. The beef is boiled in large clay pots. The gazelle is grilled on metal spits. All three cooking methods are improvised, inconsistent, and inadequate by modern standards. The Egyptians measured doneness by appearance, smell, and guesswork. Sometimes they guess wrong. You start with the goose. It's crispy on the outside, questionable on the inside. The seasonings include coriander, cumin, and salt. The coriander is aromatic. The cumin is pungent. The salt is mixed with sand, because ancient Egyptian salt extraction methods are not particularly precise. You taste history with every bite. History tastes gritty. The beef is tender and flavorful. It's also swimming in its own juices, which contain whatever the cow was carrying when it died. Cows in ancient Egypt carry many things. Most of them are microscopic. All of them are now your problem. The gazelle is exotic and gamey. It tastes like the desert smells, which is not necessarily a compliment. The meat is lean and tough. Your jaw works overtime. Your stomach prepares for overtime. Your royal physician takes notes on symptoms he expects to treat later. Vegetables accompany the meat course. Leeks, radishes, and cabbage. The leeks are strong enough to clear your sinuses. The radishes are strong enough to clear your head. The cabbage is strong enough to clear the room. Together, they create a vegetable medley that could double as chemical warfare. The meal continues with fruit, figs, dates, and grapes. The figs are fresh, sweet, and full of tiny seeds that crack between your teeth. The dates are dried, chewy, and contain enough natural sugar to power a small chariot. The grapes are plump, juicy, and have been handled by multiple people with varying standards of personal hygiene. For dessert, honey cakes and wine-soaked bread. The honey cakes are made with the same raw, unfiltered honey from breakfast, mixed with flour that contains the usual stone dust and protein supplements. The wine-soaked bread is exactly what it sounds like. Bread soaked in wine until it reaches the consistency of wet sand. It's served with additional honey, because apparently the goal is to achieve maximum stickiness. You eat everything placed before you. Not because you want to, because you have to. Royal protocol demands it, religious tradition requires it, political necessity enforces it. Being pharaoh means never having to say you're not hungry, even when you're questioning every dietary decision that brought you to this moment. The meal concludes with more wine. Different wine time. Older wine. Wine that had more time to develop character, complexity, and potentially harmful bacteria. You drink it from a golden cup, encrusted with jewels. The cup is beautiful. The contents are not. But beauty is what people remember. The digestive consequences are what you experience privately. After dinner, you attend evening court. You receive petitions from citizens. You hear disputes between nobles. You make decisions that affect thousands of lives. You try to concentrate while your stomach stages a rebellion that would make your enemies jealous of its organizational efficiency. The evening progresses. Your digestive system processes the day's culinary adventures. Each meal contributes to an internal symphony of discomfort that builds throughout the night. Your royal chambers echo with sounds that are not mentioned in official histories, but were probably familiar to every pharaoh who ever lived. You retire to your bedchamber. The wooden bed with leather straps awaits. The curved headrest promises another night of neck pain. Your body prepares for sleep while simultaneously processing enough questionable nutrition to sustain a small army or kill a large elephant. Sleep comes fitfully. Your dreams are vivid and unpleasant. You dream of fish with human faces. You dream of bread that screams when bitten. You dream of wine that turns to sand in your mouth. You wake up several times, each awakening accompanied by urgent trips to the royal bathroom facilities. The royal bathroom facilities consist of a stone seat with a hole in it, positioned over a pit that's cleaned out weekly by servants who drew the shortest straws in Egyptian history. Privacy is provided by hanging linen curtains. Comfort is not provided. The experience is functional, efficient, and memorable for all the wrong reasons. Dawn approaches. Another day begins. Another breakfast awaits. The cycle continues. But today is special. Today you're hosting a feast for visiting dignitaries from Syria. The kitchen staff has been preparing for days. The menu includes delicacies that push the boundaries of Egyptian cuisine into territories that would challenge even the most adventurous modern food critic. The feast begins at noon. The great hall is decorated with flowers, banners, and enough incense to mask the smell of whatever's been cooking for the past week. Guests arrive in their finest clothing. Musicians play harps and flutes. The atmosphere is festive. The food is ambitious. The first course features locusts, not accidentally, intentionally. Roasted locusts, seasoned with salt, honey, and herbs. Locusts are considered a delicacy in many ancient cultures. They're high in protein, low in fat, and crunchy in a way that modern people associate with breakfast cereals rather than main courses. You pick up a locust. It's golden brown and glistening with honey. Its legs are intact. Its head is attached. Its compound eyes reflect the torchlight like tiny mirrors. You bite down. The exoskeleton cracks between your teeth. The internal contents squirt onto your tongue. Your guests watch respectfully. Your stomach takes notes for later protest. The second course is more conventional. Roast lamb, prepared whole and presented on a platter large enough to serve as a small table. The lamb is surrounded by stuffed vegetables, onions stuffed with bread and herbs, leeks stuffed with cheese and nuts, cucumbers stuffed with a mixture that defies identification but includes garlic, fish sauce, and something that might be fermented dates. You sample each stuffed vegetable. The onions are pungent and overwhelming. The leeks are slimy and strange. The cucumbers are crunchy and concerning. Your guests nod approval. They're being polite. Everyone is being polite. Politeness is the only thing standing between civilization and culinary chaos. The third course features fish prepared in the Syrian style. This means it's been marinated in wine, wrapped in grape leaves, and cooked in a clay pot sealed with dough. The cooking process creates a steam chamber that theoretically preserves moisture and flavor. In practice, it creates conditions similar to a bacterial sauna. The fish emerges from its clay cocoon looking like something that died of natural causes and was discovered several days later. The grape leaves have turned brown and slimy. The marinade has transformed into a sauce that resembles nothing so much as thin mud. You taste it anyway. The flavor is complex, layered, and fundamentally wrong. Course 4 brings roast pigeon, whole pigeons stuffed with rice, nuts, and spices. Pigeons in ancient Egypt eat garbage, literally. They forage in refuse piles, consume rotting organic matter, and supplement their diet with whatever they can find in the streets of Memphis. The stuffing helps mask the natural flavor of urban scavenger bird, but only partially. You work your way through a whole pigeon. The meat is dark and gamey. The stuffing is aromatic and gritty. The bones are small and numerous. You pick pigeon bones out of your teeth while contemplating the responsibilities of leadership and wondering if any of your ancestors ever considered abdication as a viable career move. Course 5 features something unprecedented. Crocodile, sacred crocodile, from the temple pools where they lived, pampered lives eating offerings from worshippers. The meat is white, flaky, and tastes like chicken crossed with fish crossed with reptile, which is exactly what it is. The texture is unusual. The flavor is distinctive. The cultural significance is enormous. The nutritional wisdom is questionable. Your guests are impressed. Crocodile is expensive, rare, and religiously significant. Serving it demonstrates wealth, power, and a certain disregard for conventional dietary boundaries. You eat crocodile while priests chant prayers to ensure the gods don't object to your consumption of their sacred representatives. The meal continues with courses that blur the line between food and endurance test. Stuffed dormice, fermented bird eggs, cheese made from goat milk that's been aged in underground caves, where the temperature, humidity, and bacterial content create conditions that modern food scientists would classify as hazardous waste. Each dish arrives with ceremony. Each bite requires courage. Each swallow demands faith in your digestive system's ability to process substances that challenge the fundamental concepts of nutrition, safety, and good judgment. The feast concludes with honeyed fruits and more wine. The fruits are dates, figs, and grapes, soaked in honey until they reach the consistency of edible syrup. The wine is the finest vintage from the royal cellars, which means it's only moderately toxic and has been aged long enough to develop character along with potentially harmful microorganisms. You eat everything, you drink everything, you smile at your guests. You make diplomatic conversation. You pretend your stomach isn't staging a coup that would make your military commanders jealous of its strategic planning and tactical execution. The feast ends at sunset. Your guests retire to their quarters. You retire to yours. The royal physicians stand ready with their bags of herbal remedies, most of which are useless, but all of which demonstrate concern for your well-being. Night falls. Your body begins processing the day's culinary adventure. The process is neither quick nor quiet. Your bedchamber becomes a private theatre, where your digestive system performs a one-act play titled Revenge of the Sacred Crocodile. You lie awake, listening to internal sounds that remind you why pharaohs are buried with extensive medical equipment and large quantities of digestive remedies. The afterlife apparently includes stomach problems, and the ancient Egyptians believe in being prepared. Hours pass. Your body works overtime processing foods that would challenge a modern laboratory, let alone a human digestive system designed for simpler times and safer ingredients. You drift in and out of sleep, each awakening bringing new awareness of internal processes that are definitely not covered in royal protocol manuals. Dawn arrives eventually. So does your royal physician. He carries fresh herbs, bitter teas, and the expression of someone who has seen this before and knows it will happen again. He prepares remedies that are supposed to calm your stomach, settle your digestion, and restore your ability to face another day of pharaonic dining. The remedies work partially. Your stomach calms to a low rumble instead of active rebellion. Your digestion settles into manageable discomfort instead of acute crisis. Your appetite doesn't return, but your royal obligations do. Another day begins. Another breakfast waits. The cycle continues because it must, because you're Pharaoh, because the gods demand it, because refusing to eat would be worse than eating, because leadership means making sacrifices, and apparently your digestive system is what you're sacrificing. The morning meal is simpler today. Bread, beer, and fruit. The bread still contains stone dust and weevils. The beer still tastes like liquid regret. The fruit is still handled by people whose hygiene standards were established before anyone understood disease transmission. But compared to yesterday's feast, this breakfast feels almost safe. You eat methodically, you chew carefully, you swallow reluctantly. You tell yourself this is temporary, that pharaohs throughout history have survived worse, that your ancestors managed to live long enough to build pyramids, conquer enemies, and leave legacies that last millennia. Then you remember that most pharaohs died young, often from mysterious illnesses that modern doctors would probably trace to dietary choices and foodborne pathogens. This knowledge doesn't improve your appetite, but it does provide historical perspective on your current situation. The day proceeds with royal duties. Administrative meetings, religious ceremonies, military reviews, court sessions. Each activity requires focus, intelligence, and leadership skills that are difficult to maintain when your body is conducting its own internal war against everything you've eaten in the past 48 hours. You make decisions that affect trade routes. You approve building projects that will outlast your dynasty. You settle disputes that could prevent wars. You do all of this while your stomach provides commentary that ranges from gentle dissatisfaction to active protest to what can only be described as digestive insurrection. Lunch arrives. Fish soup. The fish is fresh from the Nile, which means it's carrying passengers that weren't invited but decided to come along anyway. The soup is made with vegetables grown in soil fertilized by methods that predate the concept of sanitation. The broth is flavored with herbs that are supposed to aid digestion, which suggests that Egyptian cooks understand the challenges their food presents to human digestive systems. You eat the soup. It's actually not bad. The flavor is rich and complex. The vegetables are tender. The fish is flaky and well seasoned. Your stomach accepts it with only minor complaints. You begin to think that maybe ancient Egyptian cuisine isn't completely impossible to survive. Then the afternoon snack arrives. Honey cakes and date wine. The honey cakes are made with flour ground fresh this morning by servants who understand that stone particles add texture and weevils add protein. The date wine is fermented fruit juice that has reached alcoholic potency through processes that would fascinate microbiologists and terrify food safety inspectors. You eat the honey cakes because they're sweet and you need energy. You drink the date wine because it's there and you need courage for whatever dinner has planned. Your digestive system accepts these offerings with the resignation of an organ that has learned to expect the unexpected. Evening approaches. So does the royal banquet. Tonight you're entertaining governors from Upper Egypt. They've brought gifts from their provinces, including regional specialties that represent the diverse culinary traditions of your empire. This diversity is about to become your digestive system's problem. The banquet begins with wine from Thebes, wine made from grapes grown in southern Egypt, where the climate is hotter, the soil is different, and the fermentation process follows local traditions that have evolved independently from northern Egyptian winemaking. The result is a beverage that tastes like liquid raisins mixed with sand and optimism. The first course features fish from Lake Moeris. These fish live in a man-made lake that serves multiple purposes for multiple communities. They eat algae, smaller fish, and whatever organic matter settles to the bottom of a body of water that receives input from irrigation canals, drainage systems, and human activities that predate environmental protection concepts. The fish are prepared with lotus seeds and papyrus shoots. Lotus seeds are crunchy and nutritious. Papyrus shoots are tender and flavorful. Both grow in still water that provides ideal breeding conditions for organisms that won't be properly classified for another 3,000 years, but are perfectly capable of causing problems right now. You eat the fish course with enthusiasm. It tastes fresh and clean. The lotus seeds provide interesting texture. The papyrus shoots add subtle flavor. Your stomach accepts this meal with something approaching approval. You begin to relax. The second course destroys your optimism. Roast hippo. Hippopotamus meat from the delta, where these massive animals live in river water that serves as bathroom, laundry, and transportation system for half of Egypt. Hippos are dangerous, aggressive, and spend their days wallowing in conditions that would challenge a modern sewage treatment plant. The meat is dark, dense, and aggressively flavorful. It tastes like beef that decided to become more intense through pure force of will. The texture is chewy. The seasoning is minimal. The cultural significance is enormous, because killing a hippo requires serious hunting skills and the willingness to fight an animal that can bite a crocodile in half. You chew hippo meat while your guests share hunting stories that involve spears, boats, and near-death experiences. The meat is actually quite good, once you get past the mental image of where it came from and what it ate during its lifetime in the Nile ecosystem. Course 3 brings roast ibis. Sacred ibis, the bird associated with Thoth, god of wisdom and writing. Eating sacred ibis is supposed to transfer some of the bird's divine associations to the consumer. Whether this works is debatable. Whether it affects your digestive system is guaranteed. Ibis meat is lean and slightly sweet. The birds eat fish, insects, and small creatures they find in marshes and wetlands. They're basically flying garbage disposals with religious significance. The meat is well prepared, properly seasoned, and surprisingly palatable. Your stomach handles it without major complaint. The fourth course features something special: ostrich eggs. 1 egg per person, served whole and decorated with hieroglyphic inscriptions that bless the meal and invoke divine protection for the diners. Ostrich eggs are enormous, rich, and contain enough protein to sustain a person for days. You crack open your ostrich egg with a ceremonial knife. The contents pour onto your plate like the world's largest scrambled egg. The texture is creamy and dense. The flavor is intense and slightly gamey. The quantity is overwhelming. You eat as much as you can while contemplating the digestive implications of consuming an egg that could feed a small family. Course 5 brings the evening's grand finale: stuffed goose prepared in the style of Lower Egypt. The goose is filled with a mixture of bread, onions, garlic, and spices that create an aromatic stuffing dense enough to use as building material. The bird is roasted whole, presented on a platter covered with grape leaves, and surrounded by smaller birds that were cooked inside the goose during the roasting process. You carve the goose with ceremony. Steam escapes carrying scents that are rich, complex, and slightly overwhelming. The meat is tender and flavorful. The stuffing is dense and aromatic. The smaller birds provide variety and surprise. Your plate becomes a landscape of different textures, flavors, and digestive challenges. The banquet concludes with fruit, honey, and wine, dates stuffed with nuts, figs glazed with honey, grapes fermented into wine so strong it could dissolve stone. You eat and drink until your royal robes feel uncomfortably tight, and your stomach sends messages that range from contentment to concern to what can only be described as polite panic. Your guests retire satisfied. Your physicians prepare remedies. You contemplate the night ahead and wonder if being Pharaoh is worth the dietary requirements that come with absolute power. Night arrives with its usual digestive entertainment. Your body processes the day's meals with sounds that echo through the royal chambers like a percussion ensemble that specializes in stomach problems. You lie awake, listening to internal processes that remind you why ancient Egyptian medicine includes so many digestive remedies. Hours pass slowly. Your digestive system works overtime, converting exotic foods into energy, waste products, and experiences that will influence your future dietary decisions. You drift between sleep and wakefulness, each transition bringing new awareness of physical processes that are definitely not covered in pharaonic training manuals. Dawn breaks eventually. Your royal physician arrives with herbal teas, bitter medicines, and the patient expression of someone who has treated digestive emergencies in multiple dynasties. His remedies are traditional, time-tested, and occasionally effective. Sometimes tradition is all you have. You drink the herbal teas. They taste like boiled weeds mixed with hope. You swallow the bitter medicines. They taste like concentrated suffering with healing intentions. You follow the physician's advice because alternative medicine is the only medicine available, and authority figures should set examples of faith in their medical systems. The treatments work partially. Your stomach settles into manageable discomfort. Your digestion returns to normal function. Your appetite doesn't recover, but your royal obligations continue, regardless of your personal comfort level. Another day begins. Another breakfast waits. Bread that contains stone dust and protein supplements. Beer that tastes like liquid archaeology. Fruit that has been handled by people whose hygiene education consisted of watching other people wash their hands occasionally. You eat because you must. Because pharaohs don't skip meals. because gods are supposed to appreciate earthly pleasures, including food that challenges the fundamental concepts of nutrition and safety. Because leadership means accepting responsibilities that include dietary obligations, most people would classify as cruel and unusual punishment. The morning progresses with royal duties that require concentration, wisdom, and leadership skills that are difficult to maintain when your digestive system is providing constant commentary on your recent food choices. You hold court, review building projects, and make decisions that affect millions of lives while your stomach stages performances that would impress theatrical audiences. Midday brings lunch. Fish stew made with Nile perch, vegetables grown in questionable soil, and spices that are supposed to aid digestion but probably just make the inevitable consequences more aromatic. You eat the stew because it's there, because it's expected, and because refusing food would create diplomatic incidents that could destabilize your kingdom. The stew is actually quite good. The fish is fresh and flaky. The vegetables are tender and flavorful. The spices provide warmth and complexity. Your stomach accepts this meal with something approaching gratitude. You begin to think that maybe Egyptian cuisine is becoming more tolerable through repeated exposure. This optimism is premature. Afternoon brings visitors from Nubia. They carry gifts that include regional delicacies from the south, foods that represent their cultural traditions and demonstrate respect for their pharaoh, foods that will test your digestive system in ways that previous meals have merely rehearsed. The Nubian delegation presents their offerings with ceremony. Dried meat from animals that graze in the desert, fermented milk from goats that eat plants most other animals avoid, honey from bees that collect nectar from flowers that bloom in conditions that would challenge modern botanists. You sample each offering with diplomatic grace. The dried meat is tough, salty, and tastes like leather with nutritional ambitions. The fermented milk is sour, chunky, and has the consistency of cheese that gave up halfway through the process. The honey is dark, thick, and contains particles that might be pollen, or might be something else entirely. Your guests watch respectfully as you consume their gifts. You smile, nod, and make appreciative sounds while your digestive system takes notes for future reference. Diplomacy requires sacrifices. Today your stomach is making those sacrifices on behalf of international relations. Evening arrives with its usual fanfare. Torches are lit. Musicians tune their instruments. The great hall prepares for another royal feast. Tonight you're hosting merchants from across the Mediterranean. They've brought exotic foods from distant lands. Your digestive system prepares for an international incident. The feast begins with wine from different regions. Wine from Syria that tastes like fermented sand. Wine from Cyprus that tastes like liquid olives. Wine from Crete that tastes like ocean water mixed with grape juice and regret. You sample each wine while making diplomatic conversation about trade routes, market conditions, and cultural exchange programs that apparently include exchanging digestive problems. The first course features seafood from the Red Sea. Fish that lived in salt water, which should theoretically be cleaner than river water, but somehow manages to taste like the ocean decided to become more intensely oceanic through concentrated effort. The fish are prepared with herbs and spices that are unfamiliar, exotic, and aggressively flavorful. You eat Red Sea fish while contemplating the logistics of transporting seafood across desert terrain in a time before refrigeration, ice, or any understanding of food preservation beyond salt, smoking, and prayer. The fish tastes like adventure with potentially dangerous consequences. Course 2 brings meat from animals you've never heard of. Gazelle from the eastern desert. Wild boar from the northern marshes. Something that might be antelope, but could also be large goat with identity issues. Each meat is prepared differently, seasoned uniquely, and presents distinct challenges to your digestive system. The gazelle is lean and gamey. The boar is rich and intense. The mystery antelope tastes like it lived on a diet of herbs, desert plants, and whatever else survives in environments that would challenge modern survival experts. You eat all three while your stomach performs calculations that would impress ancient mathematicians. Course 3 features bread from different regions. Bread made with grains you don't recognize, ground by methods you can't identify, and baked according to traditions that have evolved in isolation from Egyptian baking techniques. Each bread has unique texture, distinctive flavor, and contains ingredients that range from familiar to mysterious to potentially hallucinogenic. You sample bread from across the known world while your digestive system conducts an international survey of grain processing techniques, fermentation methods, and the creative ways different cultures incorporate stone particles and protein supplements into their staple foods. The feast continues with courses that represent culinary traditions from across your empire and beyond. Each dish demonstrates the diversity of human creativity in converting raw materials into food. Each bite challenges your understanding of what constitutes edible substances. You eat because you must. Because pharaohs don't refuse gifts from foreign dignitaries. Because international relations depend on showing appreciation for cultural offerings, even when those offerings test the limits of human digestive capacity. The evening concludes with entertainment. Musicians play instruments from different lands. Dancers perform traditional dances from across the Mediterranean. Storytellers share legends from their homelands. You watch and listen while your body processes foods that represent the cultural achievements of multiple civilizations. Night falls. Your guests retire to their quarters. You retire to yours. Your royal physicians prepare for another evening of digestive diplomacy, armed with herbal remedies that represent the best medical knowledge available in 1527 BCE. Your body begins processing the evening's international cuisine. The process is complex, lengthy, and accompanied by sounds that suggest your digestive system is conducting negotiations with various foreign substances that have different ideas about appropriate digestive behavior. You lie awake, contemplating the responsibilities of leadership and wondering if any pharaoh in history ever considered establishing a royal food taster position not for poison detection but for digestive compatibility assessment. The thought has merit. The implementation would require explaining to potential candidates that their job involves eating questionable food and reporting on stomach problems, which might create recruitment challenges. Hours pass with the usual digestive entertainment. Your stomach provides audio commentary on the evening's culinary adventure while your body works to convert exotic ingredients into energy, waste products, and educational experiences about the limits of human adaptability. Morning arrives with merciful simplicity. Your breakfast consists of plain bread and water. The bread still contains stone particles and weevils, but compared to last night's international buffet, these familiar additives feel almost comforting. The water comes from the Nile, which means it carries the usual passengers, but at least they're Egyptian passengers with whom your digestive system has established working relationships. You eat slowly and gratefully. Simple food has never tasted so good. Your stomach accepts the meal with what can only be described as relief. Your royal physicians nod approvingly. They understand that sometimes the best medicine is not adding more exotic ingredients to an already challenged digestive system. The day proceeds with administrative duties that feel refreshingly normal compared to recent culinary adventures. You review tax records, approve temple construction projects, and settle disputes between provincial governors. These activities require intelligence and wisdom, but don't actively threaten your digestive health. Lunch is equally simple. Fish soup with vegetables. The fish comes from the Nile, the vegetables from royal gardens, and the preparation follows traditional Egyptian methods that your body recognizes and accepts. You eat with something approaching enthusiasm while mentally noting that familiar food poisoning is preferable to exotic food poisoning. The afternoon brings news that tomorrow's royal banquet has been postponed due to flooding in the Delta region. The visiting dignitaries cannot travel. The exotic foods they were bringing will not arrive. You receive this news with appropriate diplomatic disappointment while your stomach celebrates privately. Evening dinner consists of roast duck, bread and beer. Standard Egyptian fare prepared according to familiar methods by cooks who understand your digestive preferences through hard-won experience. The duck is well cooked, properly seasoned, and contains only the usual suspects in terms of potential health hazards. You eat with genuine pleasure. The flavors are familiar and comforting. Your body processes the meal without major incident. You begin to remember why your ancestors managed to live long enough to build an empire, conquer neighboring kingdoms, and establish dynasties that lasted for centuries. That night you sleep better than you have in days. Your digestive system performs its duties quietly and efficiently. Your dreams feature normal Egyptian food prepared by competent cooks using traditional methods that have been tested by generations of pharaohs who survived to tell the tale. You wake refreshed and optimistic. Breakfast tastes good. Lunch is satisfying. Dinner is enjoyable. For 3 days, you eat normal Egyptian food, and your body responds with what can only be described as gratitude mixed with cautious hope that the culinary experiments might be over. Then the Syrian delegation arrives unexpectedly. They bring apologies for the delay and gifts to demonstrate their continued respect for the Pharaoh of Egypt. The gifts include foods that represent the finest culinary traditions of Syria, prepared specially for your consumption, and absolutely unavoidable for diplomatic reasons. Your stomach receives this news with the resignation of an organ that has learned to expect betrayal from its owner's political obligations. The Syrian feast begins immediately. There's no time to prepare mentally or physically. Diplomacy moves at its own pace, and that pace apparently includes surprise meals that challenge everything your digestive system has learned about predictable routine. The first course features lamb prepared with spices that smell like flowers mixed with medicine, mixed with something that might be incense or might be experimental chemistry. The lamb itself is tender and flavorful. The spices create sensations that range from warming to overwhelming to possibly hallucinogenic. You eat the spiced lamb while making conversation about trade agreements and military alliances. The Syrians describe their spice markets, caravan routes, and cooking traditions that have evolved in regions where different plants grow, different animals graze, and different ideas about appropriate seasoning have developed over centuries of culinary experimentation. Course 2 brings stuffed vegetables that represent Syrian creativity in converting ordinary produce into vehicles for exotic ingredients. Eggplants stuffed with rice, nuts, and spices that create flavor combinations unknown in Egyptian cuisine. Peppers stuffed with meat, grain, and herbs that produce heat levels that make your eyes water. You sample each stuffed vegetable while your tongue adjusts to flavor profiles that push the boundaries of what you previously considered edible. The Syrians watch approvingly as you experience their culinary traditions firsthand. Your digestive system takes detailed notes for future reference. The third course features bread unlike any bread you've ever encountered. Bread made with grains that don't grow in Egypt, prepared using techniques that have evolved in different climates, and flavored with ingredients that challenge your understanding of what constitutes appropriate bread additives. This bread is dense, chewy, and tastes like someone decided that regular bread needed to become more complex through the addition of seeds, nuts, dried fruits, and spices that create a flavor profile similar to eating a garden that has been concentrated into bread form. You eat Syrian bread while contemplating the creativity of human culinary adaptation and wondering if there are limits to what people will put into bread when left to their own devices for sufficient periods of time. Course 4 brings the evening's signature dish, kibbeh, ground lamb mixed with bulgur wheat, shaped into balls, stuffed with additional meat and nuts, then fried in oil that has been flavored with herbs and spices that create an aromatic experience visible from across the room. The kibbeh is crispy on the outside, tender on the inside, and contains flavor layers that unfold progressively as you chew. Each bite reveals new tastes, textures, and surprises that demonstrate the sophisticated complexity of Syrian cooking techniques. Your stomach processes this information carefully, while your diplomatic training maintains appropriate expressions of appreciation and interest. The Syrians explain their preparation methods, family recipes, and cultural significance of sharing traditional foods with honored guests. The feast continues with courses that explore the full range of Syrian culinary creativity. Rice dishes flavored with saffron and almonds, meat preparations that involve marinades, stuffings, and cooking methods that produce results impossible to achieve with Egyptian ingredients and techniques. Each dish represents centuries of culinary evolution in different environments with different available ingredients. Each bite provides education about human adaptability, creativity, and the lengths to which people will go to make food more interesting when they have access to diverse spices and unlimited imagination. You eat everything presented because diplomatic protocol demands it, because refusing food would insult your guests and potentially damage relationships that affect trade, military alliances, and regional stability. Because being Pharaoh means accepting responsibilities that include dietary obligations most people would classify as extreme sports. The evening concludes with sweets that demonstrate Syrian mastery of honey, nuts, and pastry techniques that produce desserts dense enough to use as building materials and sweet enough to power small armies. You eat Syrian pastries while your blood sugar adjusts to levels that would impress modern endocrinologists. The Syrians depart satisfied with their reception. You retire to your chambers satisfied that diplomatic relations remain strong. Your digestive system begins processing the evening's cultural exchange program with sounds that suggest international cuisine requires international cooperation between multiple organ systems. The night passes with the usual digestive diplomacy. Your body works overtime, converting Syrian cooking into Egyptian energy, while your stomach provides commentary that ranges from appreciation to concern to what can only be described as respectful protest. Morning brings familiar Egyptian breakfast and the comforting knowledge that no foreign dignitaries are scheduled to arrive today. You eat bread and beer with gratitude for predictable flavors and familiar digestive consequences. The day proceeds normally until afternoon, when scouts report the approach of a Nubian caravan carrying tribute for the pharaoh. The caravan includes rare foods from the southern kingdoms, prepared according to Nubian traditions, and absolutely necessary to accept for political reasons that affect Egypt's southern borders. Your stomach receives this news with the weary acceptance of an organ that has learned to expect surprise culinary challenges whenever diplomatic relations are involved. The Nubian tribute feast begins at sunset. The foods represent the diversity of southern African cuisine, prepared using ingredients that don't exist in Egypt and cooking methods that have evolved in different climates with different available resources. You sample dried meats that taste like jerky made from animals that graze on plants you've never heard of. You eat grain porridges made from cereals that grow in tropical conditions, using preparation techniques that produce textures and flavors unknown in Egyptian cooking. The Nubians serve fermented beverages made from fruits that don't grow in the Nile Valley. They present vegetable dishes prepared with herbs and spices that create flavor combinations that challenge your understanding of what vegetables are supposed to taste like. Each dish provides education about human culinary diversity while testing your digestive system's ability to process ingredients that represent completely different approaches to converting raw materials into food. You eat Nubian cuisine while maintaining diplomatic conversation about gold mining, ivory trade, and military cooperation that keeps Egypt's southern borders secure. The food is exotic, challenging, and absolutely essential for maintaining relationships that affect national security. The feast concludes with your stomach processing ingredients from across Africa while your body adapts to nutritional profiles that represent centuries of culinary evolution in environments completely different from the Nile Valley. Night falls with the usual digestive entertainment amplified by international diversity. Your body works to convert African cuisine into Egyptian energy, while various organ systems negotiate treaties about appropriate processing methods for exotic ingredients. You lie awake, contemplating the global nature of pharaonic dining obligations and wondering if any ancient leader ever managed to maintain international relations without constantly challenging their digestive system's commitment to national service. The pattern continues for days. Mesopotamian merchants arrive with foods that taste like the desert decided to become edible. Mediterranean traders bring seafood preserved using methods that challenge modern concepts of food safety. Arabian delegations present spiced meats that create internal sensations similar to controlled combustion. Each diplomatic meal expands your understanding of human culinary creativity while testing your body's ability to process ingredients that represent the full diversity of ancient world cooking techniques. Your royal physicians develop new remedies specifically designed for international digestive diplomacy. They create herbal mixtures that theoretically counteract exotic spice combinations. They prepare bitter teas that supposedly neutralize foreign seasoning effects. They maintain medical supplies that address the consequences of global cuisine consumption. Their treatments work partially. Your digestive system adapts gradually to the demands of international dining. Your stomach develops working relationships with ingredients from across the known world. Your body learns to process foods that represent the culinary achievements of multiple civilizations. But the learning process is expensive. Your health suffers from constant dietary challenges. Your energy levels fluctuate based on your digestive system's success in processing exotic ingredients. Your sleep patterns adjust to accommodate nightly digestive negotiations between various organ systems. You continue eating everything presented because pharaohs don't have the luxury of dietary preferences. Because international relations depend on showing respect for cultural offerings. Because leadership means accepting personal costs that ensure national benefits. Months pass. Seasons change. Your body adapts to the reality of ruling an empire that includes diverse culinary traditions requiring diplomatic appreciation. You develop tolerance for foods that initially seemed impossible to survive. Your digestive system builds strength through constant challenge. But the adaptation comes with costs. Your teeth wear down from stone particles in bread, from multiple cultures. Your stomach develops chronic irritation from processing ingredients that challenge basic concepts of digestive compatibility. Your overall health reflects the cumulative effects of eating foods designed by people who prioritized cultural tradition over nutritional science. You realize that pharaohs throughout history faced similar challenges, that ruling diverse empires requires accepting diverse cuisines, that diplomatic dining obligations are among the hidden costs of absolute power, that your ancestors survived similar experiences, built lasting legacies, and somehow managed to live long enough to be remembered as great leaders rather than digestive martyrs. The knowledge provides perspective but doesn't improve the taste of fermented yak milk or reduce the digestive consequences of eating sacred crocodile prepared according to religious traditions that prioritize spiritual significance over culinary compatibility. You continue ruling Egypt, while your body processes the culinary requirements of international leadership. You make decisions that affect millions of lives, while your digestive system negotiates treaties with ingredients from across the ancient world. Your legacy will include military victories, architectural achievements, and administrative innovations that strengthen Egypt's position among world powers. History will remember your wisdom, courage, and leadership skills that expand Egyptian influence and prosperity. History will not mention your digestive problems, stomach issues, or the personal costs of maintaining diplomatic relations through culinary appreciation. These experiences remain private, shared only with royal physicians who understand that treating pharaohs requires expertise in international digestive medicine. You accept this reality because leadership requires sacrifices that extend beyond obvious political and military costs. Because ruling diverse empires means accepting diverse responsibilities that include dietary obligations most people would find impossible to survive. Your body adapts because it must. Your digestive system strengthens because survival depends on processing whatever foods diplomacy requires. Your health adjusts to the reality that being pharaoh means eating everything presented regardless of personal preferences, digestive compatibility, or basic common sense. Years pass. Your reign establishes precedents for Egyptian greatness that influence subsequent dynasties. Your military campaigns secure borders that remain stable for generations. Your building projects create monuments that demonstrate Egyptian power and sophistication to the ancient world. Your digestive system survives experiences that would challenge modern emergency medicine while maintaining the diplomatic relations necessary for national prosperity. Your stomach processes ingredients from across the known world, while supporting the leadership decisions that establish Egypt as the dominant regional power. You rule successfully because you accept all responsibilities of leadership, including responsibilities that threaten your personal health for the benefit of national interests. Your legacy includes achievements that justify the personal costs of pharaonic dining obligations. But those costs are real. Your body bears the accumulated effects of years spent eating foods designed by cultures with different ideas about appropriate human nutrition. Your health reflects the reality that diplomatic dining requirements don't prioritize individual well-being over international relations. You age faster than pharaohs who rule smaller kingdoms with less diverse diplomatic obligations. Your internal organs work harder than those of leaders whose empires don't require constant cultural food appreciation. Your overall health demonstrates the hidden costs of ruling diverse populations with diverse culinary expectations. Yet you continue ruling because Egypt needs leadership that understands the full scope of international responsibilities. Because your people deserve pharaohs who accept personal sacrifices that ensure national prosperity. Because greatness requires accepting costs that lesser leaders would find unacceptable. Your reign becomes legendary, not despite the personal costs, but because you accept those costs willingly for the benefit of your empire. Your digestive sacrifices enable diplomatic successes that expand Egyptian influence, secure trade routes, and establish relationships that benefit your people for generations. History remembers your achievements. Your people benefit from your sacrifices. Your empire prospers because you understand that leadership means accepting responsibilities that extend far beyond obvious political obligations. Your stomach survives because you demand survival from it. Your digestive system adapts because adaptation is the alternative to failure. Your body processes impossible foods because processing them is essential for maintaining the international relationships that keep Egypt strong, prosperous, and respected throughout the ancient world. You succeed as pharaoh because you understand that success requires accepting every aspect of leadership, including aspects that challenge basic human biology for the benefit of political necessity. But late at night, when diplomatic obligations are complete and royal duties are finished, you lie in your bed and listen to your body, processing the day's cultural exchanges while wondering if any pharaoh in history ever managed to maintain international relations without constantly risking digestive disaster. The answer, you suspect, is no. The pharaohs who built Egypt's greatness all faced similar challenges. They all ate impossible foods for diplomatic reasons. They all sacrificed their digestive health for national benefit. They all understood that ruling diverse empires requires accepting diverse consequences that extend far beyond obvious political costs. This knowledge provides comfort during particularly challenging digestive episodes. You're part of a tradition that includes every great pharaoh in Egyptian history. Your stomach problems connect you to rulers who established Egypt's position as the dominant ancient world power. Your digestive sacrifices contribute to achievements that will be remembered long after your personal discomfort is forgotten. Your willingness to eat anything presented enables diplomatic successes that benefit your people for generations. You sleep fitfully, as pharaohs do. Your body processes the day's international cuisine, while your mind processes the responsibilities of leadership that extend far beyond what most people imagine when they dream of absolute power. Tomorrow will bring new diplomatic obligations, new cultural exchanges, and new foods that test your digestive system's commitment to national service. You'll eat everything presented because pharaohs don't have the luxury of dietary preferences. You'll smile at foreign dignitaries while your stomach stages protests that would impress ancient dramatists. You'll make diplomatic conversation while your body converts exotic ingredients into energy, waste products, and educational experiences about the limits of human adaptability. You'll continue ruling Egypt successfully because you understand that greatness requires accepting costs that lesser leaders would find impossible to survive. Your digestive system will continue processing foods that challenge basic biology because Egypt needs pharaohs who prioritize national interests over personal comfort. Your legacy will include achievements that justify every stomach problem, every digestive challenge, and every meal that tested your body's commitment to international relations. History will remember your wisdom, not your gastric distress. And somewhere in the palace, your royal physicians will prepare for another day of treating digestive consequences that result from maintaining the diplomatic relationships that keep Egypt strong, prosperous, and respected throughout the ancient world. Because being Pharaoh means accepting responsibilities that most people never imagine. Because ruling empires requires sacrifices that extend far beyond obvious political costs. Because greatness demands accepting personal challenges that test the limits of human endurance. Your stomach understands this, even when it protests. Your digestive system accepts its role in maintaining international relations, even when processing impossible combinations of exotic ingredients. Your body serves Egypt's interests, even when those interests conflict with basic human biology. You are Pharaoh. You eat what diplomacy requires. You survive what leadership demands. You succeed because you understand that power comes with costs that can't be delegated to subordinates or avoided through clever political maneuvering. The sun rises on another day of absolute power and absolute digestive responsibility. You wake knowing that breakfast will challenge your system, lunch will test your tolerance, and dinner will require courage that most people reserve for military campaigns. But you also wake knowing that your sacrifices enable achievements that benefit your people, strengthen your empire, and establish legacies that outlast individual digestive problems. You are Pharaoh. This is what pharaohs do. This is what pharaohs eat. This is what pharaohs survive. And your stomach, despite everything, continues to serve Egypt faithfully, one impossible meal at a time.